The stark images of Gaza, of famine, death and widespread destruction have pushed the Australian government over the line.
The situation in Gaza has gone beyond the world's worst fears,
turning the Prime Minister's long-held political support for a two-state solution into a momentous shift.
This is really quite an exceptional instance of recognition. I can't think of any instance previously where Australia is moving to recognise a state which technically is occupied totally by another state.
The Foreign Minister began laying the groundwork for the move last year.
Australia no longer believes that recognition can only come at the end of a peace process. It could occur as part of a peace process.
While the Prime Minister decided weeks ago that he would recognise a Palestinian state, he hesitated on the timing because it's an announcement that can only be made once. In the meantime, momentum has accelerated, starting with declarations from France, the UK and Canada in favour of statehood. New Zealand said today it too is considering recognition, all amid building domestic pressure.
The toll of the status quo is growing by the day, and it can be measured in innocent lives. The world cannot wait for success to be guaranteed. That only means waiting for a day that will never come.
In reality, there are still many difficult details to be settled, including questions about how security will be guaranteed for a new Palestinian state, when free elections would take place, and how to keep Hamas from power.
This is not the end. It is just the beginning. There is much more work to do in building the Palestinian state. We will help build the capacity of the Palestinian Authority, and with the international community, Australia will hold the Palestinian Authority to its commitments. The practical implementation of our recognition will be tied to progress on these commitments.
Australia will be trying to actively assist the PA in terms of those processes to ensure that there are free and fair elections and good outcomes that Australia and its like-minded partners are happy with.
Whatever the outcome on the ground of the government's decision to join other Western allies in establishing a Palestinian state, it marks an historic break in the relationship with Israel.
Australia was one of the first states to support the recognition of Israel, but that was always very much with the expectation that an independent Palestine would emerge.
On Labor's left flank, critics led by the Greens said the government should go further and impose sanctions on Israel, while condemnation from Jewish groups and the opposition has been equally swift.
There are still hostages being held by Hamas. And it is clear there is not agreement on borders. It is clear there is not a recognition of Israel by Hamas. The preconditions are not met.
Once Australia recognises the state, that recognition remains in place. It would be extraordinary to think that a future coalition government, for example, would withdraw or revoke recognition of Palestine.
The Prime Minister has been part of a growing international diplomatic blitz in the lead-up to next month's UN General Assembly, all aimed at putting pressure on Israel to end the war in Gaza.
A two-state solution is humanity's best hope to break the cycle of violence in the Middle East and to bring an end to the conflict, suffering and starvation in Gaza. Thanks very much.
The Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, joins me now. Foreign Minister, welcome to the programme.
Good to be with you, Sarah.
The Prime Minister said last week he wanted this decision of recognising Palestine to have maximum impact. So what impact will it have?
Look, this was the best opportunity that Australia has to contribute momentum for a peace process that does require a two-state solution. So we have thought deeply about this. We have worked on this for a long time. I've been engaging for over a year about how we work together with the international community to find a way to break the cycle of violence in the Middle East and to help work to bring about peace. We've seen the momentum with other countries moving. We've importantly seen what the Arab League has said about the need for Hamas to relinquish control of Gaza and lay down their weapons. This is our best opportunity to isolate Hamas, to contribute towards a two-state solution, to break the cycle of violence. So that is why we have determined to recognise Palestine at the UN in September.
Now, you said that you will do that if certain conditions are met. That's what the Prime Minister said. What happens if those conditions are not met? Will you still recognise Palestine in September?
What we have said is that we will recognise Palestine in September. We've also said that that recognition is based on the commitments we have from the Palestinian Authority and which have been made publicly in the New York call and in letters to the Saudis and to President Macron of France. So these are public commitments. We have said we will work with others to hold the Palestinian Authority to those commitments.
Can I just press you there? Can I just press you, Foreign Minister, on that question? We'll come to the commitments in a moment, but if those commitments, which are to do with the demilitarisation of a Palestinian state, if those commitments are not met, will the Australian government still recognise a Palestinian state at the UN in September?
Well, we have said we will recognise a Palestinian state at the UN in September. What we will also do is work with the international community to hold the Palestinian Authority to its commitments, and they are important and historic commitments. I also would like to make this point about why this time matters so deeply. We do have unprecedented commitments from the Arab League, a group of Arab countries saying Hamas must lay down their arms, Hamas must relinquish their control on Gaza. These are historic commitments, and we need to take this opportunity to contribute to peace. And we all know why. We are all haunted by the images that we have seen, both of the horrors of October 7th and by what has occurred since. The deprivation, the deaths of so many innocent people, and we are compelled to act by the circumstances.
But let's be clear about these conditions, because principally, as I just referred to, they relate to Hamas giving up its weapons to the Palestinian state, relinquishing armed control of Gaza. The Palestinian Authority does not control the Gaza Strip. So how can those conditions be met in your view?
Well, what we have to do is we have to isolate Hamas. We have to work to take power from Hamas, take decisions out of Hamas's hands. How do we best do that? Well, we best do that by working with others, such as the Arab League, the Palestinian Authority, who have made clear that they want Hamas to relinquish control, and by empowering those voices in the Middle East. We have to respond to the circumstances we see, Sarah, and I think Australians have been horrified by what they have seen, and Australians do want their government to work with others to try and find a way out of the violent cycle that we have seen.
And just to talk about the most recent iteration of that violent cycle, was Benjamin Netanyahu's announcement that he would extend the war in Gaza and occupy Gaza City, was that the final straw for the government in making this decision?
Well, we certainly are very concerned with this decision by the Israeli Security Cabinet, and we disagree with it fundamentally. And I joined others in calling out our opposition to it. It will exacerbate a humanitarian disaster. It will escalate the conflict. It endangers the lives of hostages, and it will contribute to continued conflict. Permanent forced displacement is not consistent with international law. So we've been very clear about that. What that did confirm for us, I think, and I think to the world, regrettably, is that at the moment a ceasefire is not within reach. I wish it were not so. I wish we had a ceasefire, aid to flow, and the hostages released.
And yet, in this moment, when you are stipulating as a condition for recognition that Hamas should lay down its arms and leave Gaza, the contradiction is that Israel has just said that it's going to continue, in fact, extend the occupation, extend the war in Gaza. In those circumstances, why would Hamas, a reviled terrorist organisation, lay down its arms, no matter what the Arab League says?
Well, I speak for Australia, and what I can say to you is, like others, we are working to deliver a change in the cycle of violence that we have seen, and to work with others to try and, provide some hope in what has been a very dark time. And I spoke with the Foreign Minister of the Palestinian Authority, and I saw her comments publicly today, which talked about the sense of hope as a result of not our decision, but also the decision of so many other countries to say we have to find a different way. We have to find a way to stop this violence and the trauma that it's caused and it is causing.
You briefed the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, about the Australian government's decision. Did he try to dissuade you from your course of action?
Look, I don't go into all the details of discussions, but I had a very good conversation with Secretary Rubio. We've had many conversations. We spoke about a number of issues. This was one of them. As a matter of courtesy, I did want to give him advance notice of our announcement. But we also spoke about the Indo-Pacific more broadly, which is obviously the primary focus of our engagement so often.
But it is inevitable, isn't it, that the US will veto any vote in the Security Council, any vote in the UN on Palestinian recognition. So in the end, this desire for peace will hit an immovable obstacle in September, won't it?
I think it's an historic... Today's an historic day for Australia. It's the first time in 77 years we have recognised a Palestinian state. Secondly, there are a number of countries who have made this historic move, and that does matter. It's about contributing to change.
Foreign Minister, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Good to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now joined by the Israeli ambassador to Australia, Amir Maimon. Ambassador, welcome to 7:30.
Good evening, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Now, do you accept that Benjamin Netanyahu's refusal to listen to both friends and allies about the conduct of Israel's war in Gaza, the unending killing and the starvation of civilians, has led to this decision by Australia and like-minded countries to recognise Palestine?
Well, the Israeli government is determined to accomplish all the objectives that were set by the government right after October the 7th. And I can repeat the dismantling of the Hamas military and political capabilities, the removal of the threat that the Hamas is posing towards our citizens along the southern border, and the immediate release of our hostages. Unfortunately, so far, the Hamas, as you clearly also mentioned in your interview to Senator Wong, is refused to all the ceasefire proposals that were put on the table by the American Special Envoy, Mr. Witkoff, including the recent one. And Israel, just to refresh the memory of the viewers, did accept it. So Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government is doing what every responsible government is and should be doing, is to look for ways and means to better secure the life of its citizens and to bring about the release of the remaining hostages.
Can I just bring you back to my question, which was whether or not you accept that the refusal of the Israelis to listen to friends and allies, not its opponents, about the way it has conducted the war, that is, the starvation of civilians, the killing of tens of thousands of civilians, has led to this decision by Australia to recognise Palestine. Do you accept the connection between those two things?
Well, I'm sure, Sarah, that you are better familiar than me on the Labour Party platform. Recognition is part of the platform. It was always there, so it's not something new. And for me, the war in Gaza is the excuse, is not the reason for the recognition.
You're calling it an excuse, so the withholding of food aid, a crime under international law, as well as the starvation of civilians, that's not an excuse that's being offered by the Australian government. This is the argument that Penny Wong is making, that this is a way of offering some peace in the midst of those circumstances. Do you accept that the withholding of food and the starvation of civilians, first of all, is a crime under international law?
The government of Israel is not, there is no starvation policy. We stated it very clear. That's not to say that we believe that the conditions on the ground are ideal. There are real challenges. In recent 2 weeks, 18,000 trucks transferred the border crossing. Israel is doing its utmost in facilitating the transfer. We are not responsible for the distribution. It's also very important to recognize the role of the Hamas, the negative role of the Hamas in preventing from aid to reach all those needed Palestinians.
Just a couple of points there. Israeli defense officials speaking to the New York Times said clearly that the Israeli military had not found evidence that Hamas had looted aid from the convoys. At the same time, do you accept that 100 children in Gaza have died of starvation in recent months? Do you accept those statistics?
I'm following the statistics of the Israeli authorities. I'm following the statistics of COGAT. I am
does that
aware
mean that you,
of,
does that mean that you deny those figures?
I'm aware of other views, like in any other issue. There are other views, but I'm following the statistics of COGAT, and I just share with you some of the statistics.
How many children?
And by the way, when
how
we
many
talk,
children?
by the way,
excuse me, Ambassador. Let me just pose this question. You said COGAT. How many children do they say have died from starvation in recent months?
I don't have the figures. I can tell you and share with you the number.
You can't push back on my figures if you don't have figures to offer yourself.
Well, I have no figures, but I can push back on the Israeli hostages that did not receive humanitarian aid since October the 7th, nor a visit from none of the organizations that are responsible to assist those who are in need. I can talk about the starvation of Eviatar David, who was just released, and I don't hear much, talks about him and about the very poor condition that he was held. I am not also hearing any reports about the fact that he was forced to dig his own grave. Let me
jump in there, Ambassador, because what you are saying, the conditions that the hostages are being held in Gaza, is repulsive and rejected by all decent-minded humans around the world. But we're here to talk about decisions by the Israeli government at the moment. I want to come back to this principal question and asking you to explain, with so much of the civilized world, that is your friends and allies, clamouring for this war with its impact on civilians to end, how does Prime Minister Netanyahu justify extending that war to an occupation of Gaza City and beyond?
Well, I think that he was very clear. He was very clear when he stated that the war can be over if the Hamas will lay their arms and surrender, if the Hamas will release all hostages. The Hamas is in full control of some parts of the urban areas in Gaza. They are the one to prevent the humanitarian aid from reaching the Palestinian people. And I think that all your question should be addressed to the Hamas and to all those countries and nations that are really concerned about the well-being of the Palestinian people.
Now, the Israeli Foreign Minister, your boss, said in relation to recognition that they can have recognition on paper, referring to countries like Australia, like Canada, like France, but we will build an Israeli state on the ground. Do you accept that plans to annex the West Bank is also part of this decision by the Australian government to recognise a Palestinian state in September?
Well, I don't know. I cannot share here this evening about the future plans of the Israeli government, but I can, and with your permission, would like to say a few words about the recognition of Australia. I believe that it will not, first of all, it's important to emphasize that we reject the recognition, unilateral recognition. It will not change anything on the ground. It will not bring a ceasefire. It will not bring about a release of the hostages, and it will not bring the two parties closer. On the contrary, it will take them apart. The only solution that can be, the only way out is if the two parties will sit down and will negotiate directly and bilaterally. This is something that needs to be understood.
Let me ask you a question about what happens next. Will you continue to maintain an embassy here in Australia if the Palestinians are granted permission to set up an embassy in Canberra?
Well, this is a hypothetical question, and we have.
I think the Foreign Minister has made it very clear that Australia will recognise Palestine, whatever happens between now and then.
No.
Will you continue with your embassy here in those
Sarah,
circumstances?
you're asking about the embassy, if the embassy will continue to operate here.
Yep.
So let's wait and see. Once a Palestinian embassy will be open, I can share with you that we have quite a number of missions in countries where there are also Palestinian embassies.
Let me just ask you a final question, if I may, Ambassador. As an ambassador, you are obliged in your position to maintain your government's position. But in your own heart, do you believe that the killing and starvation of civilians, especially children in Gaza, should stop?
Once again, there is no policy of starvation. And I feel very sad for every loss of innocent life. It's important to remember that I lost 2 members of my family on October the 7th, Shalom Maor and Ido Harush. Every child matters, whether it is Israeli-owned or Palestinians, and it is very sad. It's a tragedy. But it's also important to remember that the Hamas bears the responsibility. The Hamas attacked Israel on October the 7th. It's a war that we didn't ask for, nor we started. And that's a war that we want to end. But we will end it only when our security will be granted, when the hostages will be back, and when the Hamas will not play any role in the Gaza Strip.
And in the meantime, are you moved by pictures of suffering children in Gaza?
I'm moved by every picture of suffering children. I'm a father, a grandparent, exactly as I'm moved by these terrible photos of Eviatar David, and also, of course, moving photos of Palestinian children and others.
May I offer my condolences, the condolences of the programme, for the losses that you suffered. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you.